Mr. Speaker.
Boolell, as per my record, you have 30 minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we have been privileged to some hysterical speeches made by members on the government bench. And I can understand, it's what I call in defense of the indefensible. Why? It's simple, because this is the best government that money can buy. The best government that money can buy. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition has moved the people's motion. And it's not a motion which has been moved lightly. It's been moved after discussions with all stakeholders and with those who are suffering, those who are worried whether they'll still have a roof over their head, those who are worried whether the kitchen will run smoothly, as to whether they'll be able to honor their loan commitments. This is the harsh reality. People don't give a damn in relation to quotations or citations being made from findings of reports. This will not enable them to walk on a full belly, Mr. Speaker. The situation is totally different from what is being spelled out in this chamber. And why is it that people are worried? Because we have a government, Mr. Speaker, which is ruthless, which is mean, and we will stand up to this government. A government which is heartless. I hear our honorable friend, Honorable Ganu, saying that there are subsidies to support those at the lower rung of the ladder. But these subsidies are being borne by taxpayers. They don't run a charitable institution, Mr. Speaker. This is money coming out from the pocket of taxpayers. So, what are you saying? You're saying nothing. Trying simply, and let me tell you, you're trying to sell dreams. You're trying to sell dreams. Mr. Speaker, let me remind our friends on the other side of the House. Not only people can see through them, but their coordinated action under instruction from the political arm of the executive means that institutions are dancing to the tune of the regime. And this is unacceptable. What this country is craving for, separation of power, Mr. Speaker, sir. We cannot have instructions, and these instructions are coming from higher quarters. And we've seen what has happened in the recent past. And this is a habit that started, an ugly habit, which started since 2015. I have in mind, of course, the number of arrests, arbitrary arrests made. And you're telling me the international community is not aware of what is happening here? VDEM is an institute run by the Labour Party when it stated blatantly that this is an autocratic government. VDEM is not paid by the Labour Party to write articles on a government which shows no respect for institutions and which, in fact, exercises undue influence upon those institutions. Mr. Speaker, let me tell those who are listening, and I tell them not to be bystanders. Stand up and be counted. You know, we know the circumstances under which a former prime minister was arrested and put behind bars, not even for flimsy reasons, but for mere political reasons. And I tell the public to watch their back, because if you're not with them, they assume that you're against them. And then they'll exercise undue pressure at times to make people step down, force them to quit the job, resign or else. This is the kind of government that we have. And I will come back to the poll survey. And then you'll realize what you're worth as a party, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've seen cases of, and we've seen police arresting innocent people in the early hours of the morning, in the presence of their family, on trumped-up charges. This is the government that is running this country today, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, what do you want us to do as an opposition? We don't move a motion of no confidence? We allow elected dictatorship to flourish? Is that what they want us to do? And Mr. Speaker, there are some people on the other side of the House. Though you can count on the figure, there are few who are decent. And I will single out one person. Honorable Colin Davelu knows what I'm saying. Perhaps if he were a member of the cabinet, he could have dispensed sound advice. But we know that it's too late for redemption. Let me tell them, they have been written off. Because Parliament, as we say, yes, it is the temple of democracy, but not the be-all and the end-all of democracy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, irrespective of the hue and cry from the government bench, 63.5% of the electorate voted against the MSM and its appendages and voted for the opposition at the last general election. We represent the people in this House. If I take on board those who abstain, then the percentage of the electorate which has turned its back on the regime is as high as 70%. Of course, Honorable Ganu is right. There are lessons to be drawn from the opinion poll conducted by le Mauricien Straconsul. But what did it say? 82% of eligible voters have conveyed loud and clear that they will cast their vote, and they are eager for snap election. This is significant, and a high turnout will mean a massive defeat for the MSM at the next election, Mr. Speaker. Sir. That's why the MSM is sweating in fear of the electorate and has rescheduled the municipal election. The vast majority of the electorate says enough is enough. And let us look at the polls. This information has not been released to the press. They tell us that in order of priority, the problem of poverty ranks very high. Poor management of the economy, unemployment, drug scourge, water, fraud and corruption are the core issues. On all counts, the regime failed and failed abysmally. But could things be otherwise coming from a leader who is at the helm of a morally bankrupt regime? The motion is an opportunity for the regime to do the right thing, to think wisely, and say the way forward is to go for the dissolution of Parliament. And let the people speak, not you who are sitting on government bench, a government which money can buy. This is the government that we have today, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, whoever has the new mandate knows that they are challenging times. This is a rallying call for fundamental changes. Some call it, or some call those changes, constructive destruction. People are sick and tired of being shackled to money politics, to communal politics, to mafia politics, to fake news, to arbitrary arrests, and the gaping disparity between the haves and the have-not. This is the outcome of the tyranny of numbers and incompetency, the absolute power that corrupts absolutely. MSM culture is a culture with no restraint. And what's the political worth of the MSM of Pravind Jugnauth? Like, worth nothing, Mr. Speaker, sir. Big note without a figure. A clan not too different from the Rajapaksa or Sri Lanka. The country does not deserve the MSM. What is the MSM? It is a tent pitched in the back garden to celebrate wedding and to mourn a loss. The wake and the wedding party are over. Now it is time to dismantle the tent. Who knows MSM better than the former Secretary General? Let me tell some of our friends on the government side, time to leave the barge. The ship, the barge, is sinking fast. Mr. Speaker, I want to set the record high over assurances and certainty given by the Attorney General and Minister of Agro-Industry to rebut a seasoned politician like Honorable Bhagwan. He was right to challenge any of the minister to go for a walk down street unaccompanied by bodyguards. They will quake in the boots. And this cabinet of ministers is, Mr. Speaker, sir, inadequate, unable to respond to the needs of the electorate. Promises made, and they are false promises. And they are not only to be blamed. Mr. Speaker, when I look at the political parcours of Pravind Jugnauth, he has to be grateful to the Labour Party. He has to be grateful to the Labour Party. And if it were not for the Labour Party in 2008, he would never have returned. It's an amazing twist of history. Government helping a member of the opposition to be returned and to sit as leader of opposition. This is incestuous relationship. But we had to do it because you asked for that. We had to do it at the request of your dad. That's right. That's right, we had to do it. I say it, and I know for certain, Mr. Speaker. And I know for certain, Mr. Speaker. And I know, but let me tell you one thing.
Order on both sides of the House. Order. Order on both sides of the House. Both sides. Am I talking to you? Am I talking to you? I said order on both sides of the House. I said order on both sides of the House, including you. You continue.
Mr.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, every time the MSM has negotiated an alliance, it is not to safeguard the interests of the electorate. It is not to protect the interests of the electorate. It is not to encourage social mobility, but to protect the interests of centrists, to protect the heirloom family. That's the MSM, Mr. Speaker. And as long as I am in Labour Party, there will be no iota of rapprochement with the MSM, and I'll see to it that it will never happen. And I will see to it, it will never happen.
Order! 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 Please continue.
Mr. Speaker, born a Labourite, here today and here to stay, Labour Party will live up to the expectation of the people of the nation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me come to what the Attorney General stated. And he gave firm assurances to the nation that the former Minister of Foreign Affairs Regional Integration, International Trade, would remain within the REC and file of the MSM. And the information was broadcast on all radio and social media, announced as breaking news. If a former Secretary General of the MSM deem it fit to resign as minister and quit as Secretary General of his party, then it stands to reason that the MSM of Pravind Jugnauth is an inevitable impending disaster. It is an inevitable impending disaster. And Honorable Boolell's message was clear. All others will follow. In Indian file, when the MSM will take a good hiding at the municipal elections, which would be a foretaste of a crushing defeat of the MSM at the next general election. And trust me, I've been in politics long enough to know where the cracks are. And the cracks are all over the government bench. And I can tell you, those who are fighting amongst themselves to be within cabinet. And I know, because they talk, they feel aggrieved, they feel that they've been let down, set aside by a leader whose main interest is to protect, the rich, the filthy, and the wealthy, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, there is a correlationship between perception and reality. And let me tell you, you are selling dreams with perception. The reality is out there. And I walk all over the place. And I know people. My life in politics has been one of interaction with people. Because I love what I'm doing. And I know for certain, irrespective of your stinking, dirty money, irrespective of the influence that you want to exercise, irrespective, Mr. Speaker, sir, of...
Excuse me. Let me remind honorable members, it is true I can't see exactly who is making noise. But believe me, if I find the exact person, I'll ask him to withdraw from the chamber.
Mr. Speaker, sir, irrespective of the number of bouncers hanging around, and irrespective of means which they can resort to and use, the people of this country have seen through them. The people know what they're worth. And I can say, without fear of prejudice, your days are numbered. Now we'll come to the poll survey in a minute, Mr. Speaker, sir. And let me say, as I said, if a former Secretary General of the MSM deem it fit to resign as minister and quit as Secretary General, it means that you're in deep trouble. And Mr. Speaker, as to the appendage of his party, there is no way that Honorable Kolandavelu would be back in the cabinet of ministers, because he has become a deliberate omission. I triggered his departure following the PNQ on Saint-Louis Gate. He is still in the corridor waiting and confined to a back seat. Where the outcome of the inquiry to find out of any alleged involvement with the Danish firm over kickback, Pravind Jugnauth wants to keep him out of bounds. Nothing more, nothing less. The leader of ML has been reduced to a note without a figure. Mr. Speaker, following PQ put by Honorable Asie, the Minister of Energy in his reply rubbed in to say that free subsidiaries of CEB were a waste of resources. And it's been announced that CEB financiers are in the red and its tariff will go up by 12%. Minister Lejroga, with a wry smile, was of course hitting hard at his predecessor, the former DPM, who's now a lonesome cowboy. His party is defunct, and the two MPs have already been sucked into the vortex of the MSM. And I'm told that he was the architect of the Public Prosecution Commission, which collapsed like a pack of cards when PMSD made the honorable exit from government in 2016. But Honorable Colin Davelu reminds me of the hunters being hunted, Mr. Speaker. And let me give him credit for one thing. Honorable Colin Davelu is too dignified to make a plea to be reinstated as cabinet minister. And there are many wolves on the other side, werewolves, waiting for an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to be a member of that cabinet. But as to Honorable Jugnauth, he is politically insignificant, indignant, and deserves to be treated with contempt. Tell the country, Minister, what government would do to reimburse the fares of 40,000 civil servants. What facilities are being extended to private sector to meet the increase in bus fares being borne presently by 90,000 employees. Besides, 20,000 university students are waiting to have their pass. They cannot be left unattended.
This is the last warning, Honorable Jugnauth. Honorable Jugnauth, you can't interrupt the member. Please, you are not on a point of order. I am interfering. Please, I'm intervening. Please, keep quiet, you. You, qui arrivez, keep quiet. This is qui arrivez. Please, keep quiet. Honorable Jugnauth, allow the member to continue. And believe me, this is the last warning I'm in. Is it a point of order? Yes. Come with your point of order.
The honourable member mentioned my name and told that I was indignant, but I never fled from my constituency.
So this is not the point of order. To whom are you talking? To whom are you talking? You sit down there. You have no point of order. I have to rule. I have to rule. But don't discuss with me. Don't discuss with me. Keep quiet. Let me rule. I am the speaker. I rule. Not you. Not you. You have no point of order, please. You have no point of order. Leave it there. You continue. You have no point of order. You continue.
I can understand the honourable member because he's been caught with his pants down.
Go to your speech.
Mr. Speaker.
Let me remind you, you have only 2 minutes.
It doesn't matter. But they've been hurt, and badly hurt. Mr. Speaker, let me come to the reply given by the Honourable Minister in relation to the increase in tariff buses, who stated that there were free increases in bus fares in 2008, 10 and 13, and the average increase during that period of 5 years was 31%, which is similar to the present average increase of 31%, although the stretch of time is 9 years. In this time, it is not true. And he added that the average increase is the same as that under the Labour Party from 2008-2013, although the price of diesel was much lower at that time, Mr. Speaker. The free increases in tariff of bus fares under the Labour government was due to increase in wages and salaries and conditions of service that were imposed upon the bus industry, which represents 60% of the operating costs of the industry as compared to 20% represented by diesel costs. What are you waiting, Minister, to ease off the financial burden of these workers? It's time for you to write your political epilogue. Mr. Speaker, since time is running out, let me tell them we cannot in this country carry on with what I call sanitary dictatorship. It's time to allow people to take off the mask. Because the first to break, Mr. Speaker, the first to break those restrictions are people sitting on the government bench. Time, Mr. Speaker, to allow the people to get on the bikes, roll up their sleeves, and work to make sure that this country becomes more productive. Mr. Speaker, and I challenge, earlier I didn't have time to reply to the Minister of Solid Waste, but let me tell him one thing. he had the opportunity to depone before the court of investigation set under the chairmanship of Hamad. They chose to stay away, him, Prime Minister, and the Minister of Fisheries, Mr. And yet, they are the people who said that that all appropriate measures were taken to address the problem of leakage of oil from Wakashu. Today, this country has become a reputation because of mismanagement by government. And then you are saying that you are in defense of Mauritius to ensure that we champion the cause of climate change. You're the one who needs to be changed, Mr. Speaker. You are the one who needs to be changed. Let me, Mr. Speaker, say they have, go and read the financial statement of State Bank. Impairment of more than 12 billion rupees. They've run down Air Mauritius. Today, shareholders who purchase shares by 60 rupees a share. These shares have been compulsory acquired and 5 rupees 30 given to shareholder. And am I to understand that this is a government which is pro-poor, this is government which is pro-democratization, they are pro their pockets, and this is a government which deserves, Mr. Speaker, sir, to be removed from this House. Let the people choose. First come with municipal elections, and we are going to trounce you at the next general election, Mr.